Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tab. Glad you made it today. All right, I'm going to start off with, I normally don't read stuff off of the computer, in my videos. I just kind of roll through it and give high-level overview and throw some information in the description below. I'm going to still put the stuff in the description below, but I did want to talk to you a little more in depth about a fantastic surviving spouse benefit. Okay, surviving spouse benefit. The surviving spouse does not need to be surviving spouse of just a veteran who went overseas and didn't come back. Okay, it's also veteran got out, has been out, and now this benefit might be there for the spouse. So super important benefit, and it is dependency indemnity compensation. Essentially how it works is kind of like, the best way that I could describe it is kind of like a life insurance plan, okay? Kind of like a life insurance plan that's paid out like an annuity, so a monthly payment, okay? Very, very, very important, and I can't even tell you how many times I have come across spouses that had no clue that there were any types of these benefits. So once I realized that for myself, I have a little folder, right? And it's actually it's like a four-prongy, it's prongs all over the place and different dividers inside of it with more prongs, right? So you could two-hole punch it and put stuff in it. So I have, insurance plan A in there, insurance plan B, Social Security information, and then veterans benefit information, because if I pass away, I want my wife to know, whose door she needs to go knocking on to help out financially, and this is one of them. So, dependent indemnity compensation. I'm going to, again, read a little bit from this, and then I'm going to kind of explain it, I'm not a fan of it, but I want to make sure I'm not missing anything so I could dive into the weeds a little bit and just kind of give some definition around it. So, eligibility. One of these must be true. It says you lived with the veteran or service member without a break until their death, or if you're separated, you weren't at fault for the separation. So there's a little kind of a nuancy thing there for a surviving spouse. So, the surviving spouse with the veteran who had passed away, something had went awry and at no fault of their own, which would have to be proven. So in any case, there's some wiggle room there. Next is, so one of those have to be true, right? You either lived with them without a break until their death, or if you were separated, it wasn't a fault of your own as the spouse. The next is, and one of these must be true. So it has to be one of those and one of these. So these are three things. You don't have to be all three, just one of the three. You married the veteran or service member within 15 years of their discharge from the period of military service during which the qualifying illness or injury stated got worse. Okay, so you married the veteran or service member within 15 years of their discharge from their period of service. Okay, or you were married to the veteran or service member for at least 1 year. That's all it says. Okay? You were married to the veteran or service member for at least 1 year. So that seems like a pretty easy qualifier for a spouse. You had a child with the veteran or service member. So there's three qualifiers there for a surviving spouse. Pick your poison. Now, there's also there's some caveats to being remarried. If you remarried, you can receive or continue to receive compensation if one of these describes you. So, in other words, you are a surviving spouse, veteran passes away, you start collecting dependency indemnity compensation, and then whatever, years go by and you remarry, you can continue to receive these benefits if one of these describes you. You remarried on or after December 16th, 2003, and you were 57 years of age or older at the time you remarried. So it's already after 2003. So you have to be over 57 years old as the surviving spouse to continue to receive the DIC. You remarried on or after 2021, which is now, and you were 55 years of age or older at the time you remarried. So there you go. So it's either 55 if you remarried after 2021, 55 years old or older, or if you remarried before that and after 2003, then it's 57 years old. Again, I'll put a link in the description below. Next thing is and I'm not going to read all of it. I'm going to go to some of the most important parts. So providing evidence that one of these is true. So the service member died while on active duty is an option, or active duty for training or inactive duty training. So in other words, doing military duty, the veteran passed away. The surviving spouse, if they meet those criteria, could qualify for DIC. Or the veteran died of a service-connected illness or injury. So in other words, you have a condition, a heart condition, and you pass away, and it's service-connected. You have a service-connected heart condition. You got rated a year ago, and now a year goes by, you pass away, your surviving spouse can receive DIC. Okay? So that's passing away from a service-connected illness. There is a caveat, and there's a little story that I'll tell at the end of this. We'll wrap up here, and then I'll tell that little story to kind of paint the picture, because there's some more nuance, right? Welcome to the VA. So another qualifier would be the veteran didn't die from a service-connected illness or injury, but was eligible to receive VA compensation for a service-connected disability rated as total disabling for a certain period of time. Okay, so most commonly, and I've talked about it before, is the 10 years. Once you're 100%, once you've had 100% for 10 years, you could pass away from anything. Doesn't have to be service-connected. You can walk in front of a bus, get hit, die, your surviving spouse gets the benefit. After 10 years at 100% rating, so total. Doesn't say permanent, just says total. So being rated at 100%. Very important. Now, again, nuance and caveats that the VA loves to never make anything simple. They have a bunch of different levels of things. So the first of these eligible time frames is the one that I've talked about before. You've had total disability, which is 100%, for at least 10 years before their death. Okay, this is to pass away of anything. The next is since their release from active duty and for at least 5 years immediately before their death. So, in other words, the veteran had a total rating with the VA, which again is 100%, from the time they got out of active duty. So right away they got 100%, and they had it for 5 years before their death. So that would be another qualifier to qualify for other than a service-connected death, right? So I have a heart condition and I pass away, I'm golden. Well, I'm not, I'm dead. My spouse would be golden. If you pass away of a non-service connected ailment and you were 100% from the release of active duty for at least 5 years, then your spouse qualifies. Then the last one is that you were rated 100% for 1 year before your death if you're a former prisoner of war. And in this case, it's talking about, so verbatim, for at least 1 year before their death if they were a former prisoner of war who died after September 30th, 1999. So 1 year being rated if you're a former prisoner of war. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. The quick story that I'm going to tell now is I was very involved with a situation helping out someone whose husband had passed away. He passed away of a heart condition. However, his heart condition was not a service-connected condition, and he was not 100%. So the way the VA looks at this stuff is your cause of death on the death certificate is what they're looking at, and they're looking at contributing causes of death, which is a little subsection on the death certificate. So the VA, consider contributing causes as the cause itself. So kind of like secondary conditions still pay you, right? So same type of concept. So the service member who passed away happened to have a circulatory issue in his legs. So we revised the death certificate and had them add the circulatory issue that he had them add that as a contributing cause to his death of being from a heart attack. So that then opened up the window to the veteran's death being service-connected, which then allowed his surviving spouse to collect dependent indemnity compensation. So it's a huge benefit, and it's something that we need to have the conversation, right, with our loved ones to make sure that they understand what's out there as far as benefits are concerned and how to navigate it and what qualifies. Now, at the end of the day, even as a very worst, the minimal piece that you should do is, hey, if I die, call this place about any sort of benefits and let the experts there, if you trust an accredited rep somewhere, some organization, have them call there, right? That's going to be the best option for your loved one. So there is dependent indemnity compensation. This one was spouse specific. However, there is also dependency indemnity compensation for spouse, dependents, and parents. So there is other avenues to it. It's just this is the spouse portion of which I talked about. So thanks again. Sorry it was long-winded. Sorry I was looking down, all that good stuff. I appreciate you guys. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.